favor FaZe partially into this one, but not by a huge margin, so we'll see if you end up being right about that. As you guys can see that we are already partway through the ban phase. Apologies for missing that first ban, but it's all good. You can see it now. Kafe is the first attacker to be knocked out from play, followed by a predictable second in Thatcher, as he's still the pick of the litter when it comes to attacker bans here in our current meta. Defender bans should generally be pretty straightforward here as well, at least the ones coming from SSG, I would imagine. So, and yeah, FaZe is going to ban Valkyrie out here, so no surprises on the defensive side. It's usually the attacker side where you get a little bit more variance in the ban department of the current meta.
Absolutely the case, and Kafe being a very strong ban when it comes to Kafe, making those positions a little bit easier to play around the map. Those arrows obviously only being thwarted by Thatcher's, or rather Wamai's magnets, as we do have Thatcher, Valkyrie, and Mira all banned out as well, but those are a lot more routine than Kafe, so SSG is trying to guarantee their positions, especially around more of that site-centric play that obviously comes along with Kafe. So we'll see what FaZe want to bring for their lineup, and as to be expected, it's going to be the Flores instead to try and deal with these hard-to-reach places.
We'll see how that pans out for them. We're going to see, once again, a lot of aggressive operators coming out here for FaZe, and specifically in the soft and hard breach department, to be able to work their way down onto that second floor site that it's looking like we're going to see SSG fall themselves onto. SSG, in the meanwhile, as you were mentioning, no surprises when it comes to their lineup. They're looking to waste as much time as possible here, especially with the Goyo and Wamai being brought to the table there on the central two players. Let's get into it and see if there's going to be any surprises on the setup. More than likely not, though. And this could at least be part of the problem for SSG over the course of this series, is that they do tend to play that very slow, very team-oriented play style here. Obviously, the meta's shifted in part away from that as of recent times, so that's where FaZe might be able to find quite a bit of prowess and overall outwit SSG, as the analyst was talking about. SSG's really struggled to win any international series, and their strategy could be part of that. So we'll see if, once again, things will work out for them at SI22.
Yeah, we definitely need to see something change up for them when it comes to international competition, and hopefully it starts here on this Kafe. They're definitely going to be throwing a curveball early here with the site selection, heading towards Fireplace Hall as well as mining. See what they can possibly do with this, bring Castle along for the ride to make things a little bit more difficult for FaZe to try and maneuver around the map. They'll have to dedicate some very important utility to those if they do want to get rid of them. They do not have Sledge along for the ride, so it's going to be down to some more just limited utility.
Absolutely the case here. We'll be a slow rolling round though, folks. Give us a moment while we build up towards the action, as once again SSG not going to be favoring too much aggression themselves. Actually a minimal even extension going up to the third floor. It looks like only 1 or 2 players at most committing to that. Should be in the usual positions though once we get a better opportunity to take a look at that, and we can see a bit of it here for Fultz as he maintains his extended position. And I'll correct myself from earlier, there actually is quite a bit of a presence up here on the third floor from SSG, as they have 3 players committed to the extended game, looking to waste out this first minute or 2 from FaZe's time bank if they're going to be allowed to, and FaZe will be unable to clear that utility.
Yeah, Fultz playing inside of the bathroom around that deployable shield, something that we'd see from like TSM inside of NA, where just trying to use those mechanics to get those picks inside of Christmas. But he's also got Hot and Cold, or actually rather Fultz as well as Skies upstairs to try and assist him. So we'll see exactly what they can possibly get done, or actually Rampy rather, who'll be playing around the bar space. We saw him in Shaiko's spot just a little bit ago, but he's since came back towards the cocktail side of things. So also get a better read on things as he pops a Rotaro drone down the hatch, just trying to see exactly what SSG wants to get done. And the beauty of these Rotaro drones, they don't have to worry about ADSs or anything of the sort. He'll be able to get rid of the Goyo shield here inside of Pixel.
So we're going to get caught quite early on here with some good damage being thrown out against him, more than likely coming from Fultz there on the Wamai. He's able to bring him down to about 1/3 of his HP on the Ashe as well. An operator that, at least inside of even NA, we're not seeing it as much anymore here, but it seems for FaZe, they are favoring it quite heavily to bring it into this first round here as well. We're going to see once again SSG continue to maintain presence, but has been pushed back away from that extended position on the inside of the bathroom, at least in part.
Astro is all the way up right now inside of Minibar on the overtop. Yeah, wow. Very, very interesting stuff here. Astro actually moving up through Long Bar, able to get that pick. Fultz will double back over into Cocktail and actually pick up that frag as well. And actually, Cyber actually able to move up White as well and take down Fultz. Bosco now in Cocktail on his lonesome. The refrag will come through as Fate is able to trace out and actually get on top of things inside of the 3 versus 2.
So it leaves it a close situation here, but SSG will lose the entire extension up to the 3rd floor in terms of manpower there. Bosco, Fultz, and Rampy all now dead on the ground, leaving the entire defense down to just Hotton as well as Skies here. And unfortunately, both of them need to spread out a little bit here, too, to be able to play into it. You can see one having to extend all the way over to the depths of mining, and the opposite as well for Fireplace to be able to maintain both sides. They're going to try to back up and play together as much as they possibly can, but like I said before, minimal damage done to FaZe in comparison here. They are going to have quite a bit, but time's going to start to really play against them here as we approach the 20-second mark, and only just now starting to creep towards the site. SSG realized this, so they're really going to try to group up both of their players and hold this take together to ensure that they can't work their way in. Starts out well with the Sky's hold against Cyber. The rest of the team going to try to loop their way, but they're not being given anything in terms of POV against these players here. Souls does get the first trade, but now he needs to stick the case, and unfortunately for him, he's out of time, so he's just going to let it go. Won't even let the kill go through, and SSG sneaks in the first win.
Very well done from SSG, especially when it came to the refrags upstairs. Yes, they didn't win it out, but they delayed enough time with that setup, and that's really what the importance of that round is. That time bank. Phases usually end up limiting themselves in, does come back to bite them, so SSG will be able to pick up that initial round. And very awkward gunfights happening very early on there, especially with just the selection of how Astro wanted to play that out. Just simply drops down Skylight and starts trying to pressure Cocktail. It works out for him, surprisingly enough. Obviously, he does get refragged eventually, but FaZe is able to make it through that top floor quite handedly, at least man advantage-wise, but once again, that time just coming back to bite them.
And unfortunately for FaZe, not being able to clear things out, as you were mentioning, on the top hold, comes back to bite them in a huge way as they waste a lot of time specifically on that rappel, trying to knock out some of the utility, and not enough time actually clearing it. So as a result of that, SSG come out on top, and they're just going to go right back to their second floor site as well. No real need to change things up. You can play pretty much the same exact setup, at least when it comes to your extension upstairs, which, as we saw, was the huge proponent, which allowed SSG to waste the time, which then allowed them to leverage the 2v3 into their favor, and they're going to try to pull off the same exact thing here on the other second floor site over towards Library.
Yeah, fantastic play from Skies there especially as well. That's one of those situations where it's very easy to over-peak, but instead he plays the opposite side of mining extremely well, doesn't overswing, and ends up winning the round simply by wasting FaZe's time trying to kill him inside of that space. SSG getting away with the initial round. We'll see what they can do on the second one, as they'll be headed towards the mid-level again, but this time obviously for the reading defense. And this is going to play very similar to what SSG was doing previously. Might have a little bit of a different look around some spaces. We'll make sure to highlight those for you guys if we do see any. But as of right now, it's making a lot of sense across the board as to what they're looking into. Very similar to their last round, minus hot and cold now on the ward.
Yeah, hot and cold there. Trying to go for a bit of a jump out at the beginning as well, hoping we saw some players spawn over closer to the docks, but not going to be the case. They all spawn in the Christmas market, and so they won't be able to pick anyone up from there. You're going to see this breaching charge and Selma use real quick to open up some of those hatches up on top, as they won't necessarily need all the Selmas. It'll be cool to waste the first one there and just opening up the hatch and getting quicker access to the third floor. Once again, time is the key factor here for FaZe in terms of an adjustment from the previous round. They need to clear out this third floor setup much more quickly than they did last time, so they have large enough of a time bank to assault the site down below. That transition, I believe, will be even a little bit rougher for this site, personally, in my opinion, as well. You can have some pretty aggressive cutoffs from inside of Library there, and SSG will certainly want to use those in the dying seconds of this round.
We'll say this site is definitely more abusable when it comes to verticality, so we could see FaZe lean into that later on into the round, but it requires some heavy lifting from them inside of the soft breach department, which they don't necessarily have access to right now. So we'll have to see exactly what they want to try and move forward with. At least it'll be Astro here inside of mining, in tow with Bullet. Has some top control as well going on as they're looking into Cigar as of right now, but obviously SSG still has a pretty safe haven over on the other end of the map, as they'll be playing safely inside of Cocktail, continually trying to waste FaZe's time, even though FaZe has really just been wasting their own.
Yeah, FaZe here we can see with a big focus on trying to work their way in. It seemed through Fireplace there as they open up at least one path forward, but that's not really going to be safe enough to just throw all their players to the inside, and they won't have great support either. But they get the opening kill for themselves in a minimum. Astro able to line up a great pick versus Hot and Cold. He does a second one, just staying out the 90 Hall to challenge, this time against Foltz, and he wins that fight as well.
This is where things get very risky for SSG. You can see FaZe is trying to go for the dining plant as of right now, especially with Cyber being repelled on the Christmas window. They want to make sure that nobody can possibly get over the top end of this. Cyber's actually going to swing in to Ticket, move up White and take down one, and Astro with a triple kill as well. This man doesn't just have Selma charges, he's got an AK-12 as well, and it's going to continue to burst down these members. Rampy's going to try and make a play from the balcony, but it's all for naught. FaZe with their very first round.
A flawless one at that. that. It's another very quick adjustment coming in from the team who drops the first round. It was like our previous series we casted earlier today there. SSG not able to adjust their positioning quickly enough when they get caught on those initial peaks. And unfortunately, the extended setup comes back to bite them there as they don't have enough site presence towards the end of the round there to fend off the assault, especially coming in from Astro with 3 kills over the course of that round.
Yeah, no info really on the mining area as well as just Red 90 here. Astro getting away with way too much inside of this positioning, especially when he actually ended up transitioning into reading. That's not something that you really see too often, is when, you know, Ace is just allowed to take as much control as he wants of the site. So unfortunate there for SSG, but definitely something that they're going to look to fix going forward. We'll see what they want to go to next. It's going to be the top floor this time around, so I'm assuming that we're more than likely going to see the positioning here from SSG look quite similar. They'll be bringing 3 shields since Bosco has 1 and Hot and Cold has 2, more than likely dedicating them around the pixel space as well as the bathroom.
Fortune certainly favoring the bold when it comes to FaZe's strategy, but this time not going to be able to bypass the defensive setup that SSG will put in front of them. It's direct play up on the 3rd floor this time around here, and we will see a lot of those same extensions, specifically into the white bathroom there in the middle of the floor, along with a lot more reinforcements coming in closer to both the freezer as well as the cocktail bar area to fend off that push from west to east that we so often see our attacking teams go for. And I would imagine we would get out of FaZe as well, maybe with some action going on the repels too.
Oh, great highlight there, Mr. Observer. Thank you very much, as they've reinforced both the bathroom walls here, John. This is going to make it to where the bathroom play is going to be pretty interesting, mainly because you have to dedicate yourself here. You have to be fully committed to this game plan because you're there as long as you're alive. There's no way you're really getting out, especially with the way that FaZe has been breaking up the map. They'll more than likely try and work that white window, and it's just going to make things complex for that player to try and get out into White Hall and get back towards stacks or what have you, but we'll have to see. FaZe already getting on this side of the building, so a little bit of a warning here for SSG, but again, they have to be committed to this game plan and trying to burn as much of FaZe's time and utility inside of this space.
See the repels being used quite heavily here by FaZe in the opening seconds of the round. Obviously, using this extra minute or so for the drone time also to see what type of setup SSG has brought to the table and if there's any little wrinkles that they need to worry about here. The Twitch obviously coming into play quite handily to deal with some of these extended pieces of utility like the ADS one hiding behind those shields. You can see another one getting sniped out there, at least his camera going away actually. Hot and Cold trying to chase that down. Rampy is, but Hot and Cold be the one to grab it eventually as the first minute of the round is now gone. But FaZe more than likely feeling the confidence after that drone run to probably at least start to push their way in.
Absolutely the case, especially with the damage they've already done to the ADSs inside of the pixel corner. We could definitely see them start to work in towards Christmas. Nades coming through very soon. It's actually Bullet working this white side windows again, but it's more towards the back as he's just pitching nades in towards stacks as well as white window. Hot and Cold's going to toss a nitro cell, but nobody home. The FaZe member already moving to the roof.
Lots of support coming in from down the white stairs just in the event phase, trying to go for a more aggressive play up that staircase itself. We are going to see flashes dumped in from Skylight, and that's a hop. They're going for it. Fultz is ready to fend it off, though, and he immediately shuts down Cyber as he tries to work his way in. Bullet will have better luck, though, and Rampy tried to go for a jump out. Wasn't able to really find anything from the looks of it, though, so he's got a nice run upstairs, but the problem is Astro already watching out for that, and meanwhile, back up on the 3rd floor closer to the site, it's been a massacre. FaZe once again running over the entire setup. Souls here claiming a double kill for himself over the course of the round as FaZe get
their reign of terror on this offensive side.
SSG will switch things up here, now head all the way down 1st floor for their 4th hole. Going to try all the sites available on this map to see if they can finally get themselves a winner instead of heading back to repeat any of the ones that they managed to pick up for themselves, such as the 1st hold back over in mine, which is now available by the way, but they are going to choose to bypass that for the time being and see how the kitchen hold will favor them this time. Very similar operator lineup being brought to the table as well. Most notable addition will be the Echo coming in for Skies here. Seen Echo used quite a bit on this site as there's a lot of places to hide those yokai drones and the obvious clutch capability, because we oftentimes end up in a situation where the last defender and the last attacker are on opposite sides of the site from each other. If that last defender happens to be obviously the yokai drone carrier here, he can immediately shut down the plan attempt and end the round safely from a distance.
And he's one of those operators that if you play him seldom enough, he's always going to end up catching somebody off guard. So SSG definitely looking to try and make that happen. FaZe now out and onto the field, not a change up in sight for them. They are committed to the game plan, and here you go guys, here's some cheeky things you can use at home. Always love to see this whenever we're able to grab a POV like this. This guy's just going to drive that drone back, toss it back up into the coolers up top, just to make sure that he can actually use that later on if necessary. It's just a very safe spot to have that, so as long as Sky stays alive, which shouldn't be a problem by the way, he's got the best survival rating of any player in North America, he's more than likely going to be able to get something done with that yokai.
Let's see if he can keep himself alive throughout the course of this round and maybe come out clutch, because unfortunately Bosco is not going to be able to help out much in the delay department here. All three of the Toxic Babes gone inside of the first minute of the round, as Bosco won't be given a chance to use them. Cyber as well, no problem to follow that through here. He uses his teammate as a distraction to bait himself forward and absolutely executes Fultz as he wraps the corner towards Bakery.
This is what I was really worried about when it came to this matchup, John. FaZe is unflappable in what they're willing to do and willing to commit. You can just see the synergy amongst this squad. It's a minute 46, guys, and everybody minus Hot and Cold and Rampy is on the floor right now for SSG. Rampy trying to fight back, some serious damage onto Astro, but they have the entire site. And, well,
4v1 halfway through the round.
Yeah, Rampy's upstairs, man, and the plant's going down. I don't really know what he's going to do here, but it starts with this and serious damage onto one of the FaZe members, but he's prone on the floor. And prone, well, it does that. That's what it does. It just so happens to have the gun model right over the player that's laying on the floor. And with that secondary shotgun up close, going to make things look pretty easy for FaZe. It's going to be their third round on the offensive side as they're making SSG mincemeat.
Usually kept for the rotates, but this time around it'll work perfectly to quickly finish off that last straggler on SSG as FaZe continue onwards. Now on a 3-round streak ever since just barely dropping the very first round here. It's been all domination from them since then, and I mean domination, as we have seen them just waltz right into the building multiple times, especially in that last round, and execute any type of extended setup that exists for SSG, leaving the site pretty much open for the taking.
SSG is scared right now. That's really the way that they're playing, especially with like Fultz inside a Bakery right there. He knows he has people bearing down on him, but he isn't ready for how FaZe is willing to commit to that. You know, they're holding the over top angle, and they know that he's playing on the other side of the Bakery, like glass front. So instead of, you know, actually like trying to do this whole convoluted thing of, oh, we got to get small bait control and all of these other things, they just do the very simple forward strategy of hold the over top angle, toss a stun in, push the twitch in, and get your frag, baby. That's it. That's all you need to do. So FaZe have all of the support necessary to be able to take control of these. SSG, honestly, just need to fight back. We need to see them commit to some fights and take them in convincing fashion, because as of right now, they're simply waiting for FaZe to do something and then trying to react to it. That's not going to work.
Yeah, the problem is when we have seen them try to do things, it's usually been a result of a reaction. It's usually happened very poorly where they do it, as you were mentioning earlier, way too late with some bad timing or through some other poor circumstances. So they themselves, the comms, are probably trying to convince themselves not to make those types of plays, but I agree with you. It's exactly what's needed. They need to get out in front, control the pace of these rounds, because FaZe is controlling every piece of their movement at the moment, and it's a large part of how they're winning these rounds so easily.
It's one thing that I always tell anybody when they're starting to learn Rainbow Six. That defensive side, you have to control the pace of the game. If you let the offense dictate what you're doing, you've already lost the battle, basically. Because, I mean, just look at the control FaZe is allowed to have. This is what I like to see. Fultz up here on stage, already getting rid of some drones, trying to get some early info onto FaZe, not being overly committed to where he's going to die, but definitely showing face and making sure that FaZe know that they can't just have this.
So it'll be a little bit more of a passive beginning here for the FaZe roster, as they are going to repeat the site that they lost at the beginning of this map here. As you can see, they're taking their time to make sure they don't get tripped up by any of the extensions from SSG. Once again, though, not a huge surprise in terms of what we're getting from SSG, aside from this walkout currently happening from Fultz, as he's trying to actively contest any of the run-ins that might be happening over here towards Christmas, while the rest of FaZe is working on getting themselves in through either one of the hatches, sitting a little bit closer, as yeah, that drone's finally going to get taken out, and Cyber will have to be a little bit more manual with his progress at this point forward, once again allowing for Fultz to maintain his position just by the piano as well, and continue to waste the time and cause a little bit of hesitation in the FaZe camp as they want to clear this out.
This is the best early round that we've seen out of SSG minus the round that they've won. Committed to Christmas, making sure they're getting rid of this info, because you're only as good as your info in Siege. FaZe isn't going to walk into this blindly and try and figure out where Rampy is with their face. Instead, they're going to try and get some solid info and frag him out that way, but since he's pulling all of that away from them, they now have to try and commit to something else. Ticket's also soft right now, so could see some interesting things happen here depending on the info that is gathered. Fultz sitting on stage, could be seeing Astro peek in soon, but more than likely wants somebody in tow to try and assist him. Also remember, this is actually on the second floor here. SSG not going back towards the top floor, instead committed to what the very initial round was that they ended up getting their dub on. Cameraman with a big pickup onto Hot and Cold, and he's not starting too hot, 1-4 currently.
Could be another troublesome LAN if this is going to continue for him, and that was a big part of the problem for him specifically back at the Sweden Major as well. After a great performance in the NAL and things, man, just falling apart once again here, even though we had a promising start. And to be fair, a lot of time wasted in the initial defense put up by SSG, especially the play that was made by Foltz, but it just all amounts to nothing now, as once again, FaZe have 1 or 2 players completely ignore that setup and go directly for site contention, and it works. They're able to work their way in. Rampy fighting a futile battle here now, a nice pick that he got initially, but it's only the start of a 1v5. All right, nicely done to make it a 1v3, but obviously they have full sight on his current position now, so anything from this point forward is going to be even tougher to grab, and Astro finally leaps out the window by the red stairs to finish this one off for FaZe.
I mean, if I was a gambling man, I would just say that the game is basically over at this point. I don't know what SSG necessarily does to get this map back under their control. FaZe has already gotten 4 rounds on their offensive side, and with the bans coming in, this is technically speaking even more defensive-sided because Capital's not in play. They really have to hit those Rotero drones and make sure that they're hitting their mark, but FaZe have gotten away with even more than that. We've been seeing a lot of play out of Cyber with these Twitch drones as well that's been able to get rid of a lot of utility. You know, it's just not great right now for the SSG camp.
Yeah, so it's back up to the 3rd floor now, and more than likely the thought pattern coming in behind this site choice from SSG, let's try to make this as predictable of a play as possible coming in for the attackers here, because that's been the problem. We just have not been able to read into the strategy. We've not been able to properly counter the strategy.
They can't get in front of them, man. They literally cannot be an obstacle for them. It's like FaZe has basically got the keys to the castle.
So they're going to go to the 3rd floor in hopes that they have the most predictable strategy possible cut out from FaZe here, because you are kind of limited what you can do as an attacker on this site, but overall, we already saw success from FaZe on this site a couple rounds back, so that's not necessarily a formula that's going to work outright.
We are going to have a change up in SSG's overall strategy for this top floor. Foltz will be bringing Aruni with her laser gates, as well as Bosco and the castle barricades. Now, this actually makes for a pretty fun strat to watch for you folks at home. We'll get to the explanation as we get more of an oversight here, but you're more than likely going to see a castle barricade more than likely dedicated to this double door here on Cigar. With that laser gate there, it's going to make it to where they actually have to end up clearing this thing twice, as well as it makes it to where you can actually play inside of Cigar a lot easier. FaZe has to try and fight into you if they want to try and go for a lot of default plans, unless they want to go for Cocktail, but that's not something that we're more than likely going to see, simply because they don't have any soft destruction that works vertically.
Let's find out exactly how FaZe will try to navigate their way into this site yet again. Whether it's through deletion of the utility from SSG or an outright walk in the park to get themselves in the site, everything has been working for our attackers here, as you can see. 4 players on the attacking roster right now for FaZe have died only a single time inside of this half so far. That would be Astro, Cameraman, as well as Bullet and Souls have only gone down once, and that would more than likely just be the round that SSG won here. So ever since then, it's been a nearly flawless half for this entire team, save for Cyber.
Yeah, Astro actually is tied currently with the entirety of SSG's roster for kills. He's 7-1-0.
Never a great stat, but
yeah,
always a very important one to point out there, as things are rough at this point for SSG. And run over is certain.
Oh no.
Man, I can't even finish my sentence. And nicely done. A nice catch as well here by FaZe. It looks like a possible double run out maybe. Might have been a window hop as well, but either way, Astro just leaps right in and knocks out another one here. SSG are bowing down to Latin America right now, as they cannot hold any sight except for that initial round.
John, I need you to hold me. I'm in so much pain right now watching this. This is just, it's so
walking right in.
It's so easy. It's so, oh my God. It's another flawless from FaZe as they just dice up SSG. This is insanity. It's like chopping up sushi right now, man. This is incredible stuff from FaZe. SSG have no answer to this. You can see Lycan in the back just walking aimlessly, staring at these monitors. He's like, I don't know really what to say. And honestly, I don't know what to say either. I don't even know what you do. What's the adjustment going into this next map?
Just forget the first map happened. Yeah, honestly, that's kind of, I'm kind of being serious about that.
Oh, no, very.
It's not a whole lot to take from this map. Like I said, especially on this defensive half, yeah, maybe we could see a little bit of a rebound and they make the scoreline a bit competitive here, but
Cyber and Astro both are either tied or have more kills than the entirety of the SSG roster. That's a thing. Well, you know, I feel like I cursed SSG, John, because you know what I did that I never do for LANs?
What?
I played the GIF game. The GIF game of who do you support? And, well, I looked away. I held it out, obviously. I let it roll for a little while. I closed my eyes and I clicked the button. You want to know who I got?
FaZe?
I got FaZe. That's exactly who I got. I have the screenshot on my phone. I could even.
How does that curse SSG though?
Because I'm supposed to be for NA in a certain, capacity. I'm from North America. I'm supposed to be rooting for the boys here, but I guess the gifts just don't lie. It's got to be FaZe Clan.
Well, there was some doubts as to whether FaZe would be able to replicate their performance that they brought to Sweden, as their victory there wasn't necessarily the cleanest affair, having to play on all 5 maps in the grand finals, just barely squeaking through Damwon Gaming as well, be able to make it to the grand finals overall, but still managed to get it done. A little bit of a falter recently in the Brasileirão finals, but that's okay because it seems like they are right in shape yet again as they return to another major, and this time obviously the World Championships, currently leading 5-1 versus SSG. If you are just joining us, we just switched sides, and we're going to have to wait and see if SSG can give us anything on their attacking side to maybe, just maybe, save this map. It's not looking good, but we'll hold our breath here for the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, words I didn't think that you were going to be saying at this moment. I thought we'd at least see some pushback from SSG, but they've just simply fallen over since the first round. It's been the FaZe show throughout this entire time, and it hasn't been the easiest thing for FaZe either. I mean, the info game and everything has just been absolutely on point for them, but finally, SSG is going to get something as they get to this offensive side. Cyber will fall, and SSG starting to warm up in a certain way.
Good opener from SSG, and more importantly, it doesn't get immediately traded in any sense here either. No one from FaZe in the area. Cyber just gets caught in a rotation, so no one's going to be able to assist with making sure that Fultz or anyone else goes down as a result of that one. It's a clean opener for SSG, and now they've got a player advantage they can leverage here. They can be a bit more bold with their opening push into the site when they're finally ready to go for it. They can afford to lose one player on a trade as they work their way in here, so we'll see if they try to leverage that at all. Still have a little over half the round to play into as well, and very much understandably, they are taking this incredibly cautiously so they don't mess up and get jumped on by the members of FaZe here if they try to get over-aggressive and make up for their lost player.
And that's exactly what you want to see coming from SSG as well. As you said, they get away with that initial frag. They want to make sure that this does not go to FaZe yet again here when they've actually been able to muster a lead here for round 7. Rampy going to start working on this cocktail floor on an operator we are so very used to seeing him play. Only able to down Astros. He might be able to get away. The Skeleton Key will come out. Can he confirm it? It'll be hot and cold instead with the frag grenade coming through, but not before Cameraman can take out Fultz.
Cameraman going to see if he can open up a rotate for himself. Bullet also leaps into the fight, but Souls will get traded elsewhere by Hot and Cold. 1 minute remaining in the meanwhile here, a little less than that. We've devolved down to a 2v3. Cameraman and Bullet trying to hold on for FaZe. Sky's busy putting the case down on the site, but they can't lock him down. Hot and Cold instead gets the pick on Cameraman, but Bullet is there for the trade, as he's now going to try to clutch this out in 1v3 fashion. Sky's, in the meanwhile, will waste no time hopping back out to reestablish himself in a different position, and Rampy's going to try to hold this from down below as well. An incredibly difficult clutch now for Bullet to make, because he's got to get aggressive, and he's got to make 2 different transitions down to the second floor to kill the player in Library, and then back up to somehow take out a player on Rappel as well. This is near impossible for him. Can't even really see this player inside of Library, so he knows he has to swing directly into it. He's just trying to get some type of an advantaged angle here, and he nearly gets it. In fact, finishes off against Rampy, but he's low on time. Only 7 seconds left to get onto the counter defuse. It's not going to be possible. He tries to go for the jump out to at least get the kill, but Skies fends it off, and finally, SSG get themselves another round.
Yeah, he only had a couple of moments there. If he was able to get that initial frag more around the 20-second mark, then he definitely has an opportunity to get back inside and actually get towards the diffuser, just timing-wise. But either way, it'd still be even difficult with that going on there, as you got to get it all the way upstairs and still have 7 seconds to defuse that thing. So, very tall task for the FaZe member, but luckily enough for SSG, they can calm down just a little bit. FaZe is not on map point just yet, and they still have a lot of offense left in them.
3-round gap as well, so it's certainly rough, but it's not impossible to work their way back from, especially if they're able to find consistency on this attacking side. FaZe not really able to figure out exactly what to do about the bottom to top clear that we saw SSG try to go for there. Just too much pressure against them, and especially with the Buck presence working its way in there, catching at least 1, if not 2 players off guard over the course of that round. FaZe unfortunately just did not have the player power to fend off any type of defuse attempt in the later portions of that round, so SSG snuck it in. Sky's, the planter himself, got the heck out of there, and they played out the 2v1 very, very easily for themselves.
Yeah, really the biggest issue there for FaZe was not reading into the reading take. That was the biggest thing. As you said, that downstairs clear, punishing FaZe initially, and then past that, SSG having a very commendable control over the mid floor, just not allowing FaZe to actually recommit and take some of these gunfights. The damage was just too high early on inside of the round. You even saw, I believe, Bullet trying to take some fights there, for a couple of moments, and then falling off and going towards White because he saw what was going on. Plants going down as a 2 versus 3. I can't give him myself up for this frag right now. I need to try and play for the objective instead, and it just doesn't work out for FaZe. They're going to go to the reading mining, or rather fireplace mining defense now, though. A little bit of a change up for them, but I'm definitely going to be committed to very similar strategy as to what SSG did on this with the castle barricades.
Mistakes made by FaZe in the previous round, in my opinion, are rarely made by the same team multiple times over the course of a game. So SSG's not going to be able to rely on, for instance, catching one player in the middle of a rotation or whatnot. Not catching a odd clear as well. I don't think FaZe is going to be tripped up by that more than once here. So SSG certainly going to need to bring a strong default clear to the table at some point if they want to come out on top of enough of these rounds to tie it back up and maybe even take the lead away from FaZe here. But at the moment, FaZe in control of things still. As we see SSG working their drones into the top floor to try and clear out the extension. Astro just going to pop that one away. It's not really any threat to him, but still, man, he's really, yeah, you saw that too. He's really surrounded themselves with jammers there.
You need jammers? We got jammers for days. We got jammers on your left, jammers on your right, jammers in the middle of the floor.
I guess it works because that one's blocking the door. The one to his left is blocking the new balcony as
This
well.
just shows you how nerfed Mute got. like it's just all inside of reading.
He's really trying to cope and jam out as much as possible.
The copium right now is immense from Mute. It's actually insane, but it's delayed so much time. I mean, look at SSG. They're squandering all of this in the moment. Fultz will finally drop in, but look at the time. He's the first one in the building. It's 1 minute 35 seconds as he sits on red stairs.
Nobody wants to risk pressuring that closet as well, so they're not even going to try and go out against that. And meanwhile, it's been completely abandoned, and I don't believe SSG have been able to realize that, as they wouldn't have been able to sneak a drone through as of yet. Bullet, however, has lost his support over here on the soft wall next to the bathrooms. He's got to be very cautious, even with that ping coming out there about how he might proceed from this point forward. Looks like he does have some additional support still up here on the third floor too. And SSG is going to finally commit themselves to a bit of a clear on this third floor hold, as they will have to before transitioning down to the second floor. I say that, but FaZe was able to ignore it to some degree here, so SSG, given the lack of time that they are quickly coming upon here, might have to pull off the same thing.
And don't worry, folks, for those of you that did notice the rave going on the top of the screen, that was not just you. You are not going crazy. I also saw it as well, but it's been fixed now, so the top bar is working. We know what's going on over all of these map choices. So FaZe still trying to look to see exactly what SSG want to do with the remaining time that they have, which is very dire in the moment. Rampy finally getting something done here. He'll take down Cameraman. That'll be his 4th frag of the game, but SSG still has so much to do with only 30 seconds remaining, and now FaZe is starting to fight back. Cyber gets picked off, though, in response.
It's going to bring it down to 3 remaining for FaZe. Once again, having to fight for a player down here. Even with the trades working their way in, they lose another player, but time is very much starting to play into their side of things with only 15 seconds remaining. And the majority of SSG still on the third floor. They're going to have to suddenly transition down, and it'll go quite predictably here as they have put no intel gathering, I don't believe anyway, onto this second floor here. Hopping in, a good opener from Hot and Cold, but he's got no time left and no case control either. So time runs out, the gas goes out, and we see another successful round picked up from FaZe as they push on to that point.
I mean, you can see the monumental difference between FaZe's offenses and SSG's offenses. SSG's are very, very slow rolling, but not in the same way as FaZe's. FaZe's is for information basis, and as soon as they get that, they're fully committed to the cause. As for SSG, it feels like the parts and pieces slowly try to come together, and they'll get a pick here and get a pick there, and then try and commit to something, but it's wasting so much time, and on top of that, they're not taking anything away from FaZe. They're not being forceful with what they're doing, and that's what we need to see from SSG. We need to see some forceful gameplay. Strip these things away from FaZe, because they're not just going to let you have this.
Absolutely the case here. SSG needing to try and dictate their own destiny. They need to do it a little bit more quickly, too, as once again, like I said, got tripped up there and trying to clear out the last stragglers on the third floor. Too much utility and too much security for those FaZe members to work their way past. Ultimately, they were forced to just hop down to the second floor like I was talking about earlier in that round. Again, they find
kind of awkward they didn't repel the Christmas window there on the far side for Whiteside either. I feel like that window has some pretty important impact overall for that, especially for the Cigar player there.
The one in the hallway? Or?
No, the one for Christmas stage.
There was a player earlier in the round, but they left, I think, around the 2-minute mark.
I'm trying to remember if they had that castle barricade dedicated there as well, because I know they definitely had the utility stacked over inside of Pixel to try and prevent anything coming in.
I remember the shield got taken down at one point, the one in bathroom.
Yeah.
And then I saw like a couple shots coming from the rappel. So I know that someone was there at like the halfway point of the round, but they never used the pressure for anything significant. So
yeah, very interesting stuff coming through here for SSG. Is it just seems as though they cannot get their head wrapped around FaZe's strategy on either end of the coin.
Absolutely the case here, and now FaZe potentially going to start to try and take advantage of that. We can see Quick little double tap on the window just in case our Mozzie player, currently taken on by Bullet, wants to try and hop out, and there is quite a few players out there, so certainly wouldn't be for any lack of fights if he went for it. Even just a quick peek out too might be worth it, but more than likely not going to see that, as we haven't seen FaZe get that bold just as of yet. They do have the window open though, so they could be playing on sound cues as well to allow for Camera to try and chuck out that Nitro cell, but that too is not going to lead to a whole lot here, as SSG is putting no presence, it looks like, at least in those first 30 seconds up on the roof. Might be sending 1 or 2 players up there now, however.
Well, FaZe obviously now down inside of Kitchen here for this defense. Almost a minute already off the board as SSG has gathered some control here around Bakery. FaZe seemingly with no idea as of yet. Do have the mute jammer here on the wall. We're going to have Skies commit some pellets to the top end, and this is the beauty of Habana post buff, is she'll be able to only use 2 pellets inside of that space, and it's the perfect amount of area to get a nade to sneak in there and get rid of this. And this is exactly what's going to happen. Skies will more than likely dedicate the rest of his X-Kairos onto the walls. There won't be any other utility preventing this unless somebody wants to step up to the plate and possibly chuck an impact through there, but it's not going to happen.
Much quieter round overall between both of our teams here. Still a lot to deal with, though, specifically that top down on the inside of Train and the supporting player. Currently going to be Cyber helping out to make sure they don't just rotate right up there and catch Astro before he can find any impact. SSG won't be able to walk directly in towards service, meaning they really only have that breach they've made from Bakery to safely play into to get into the site. A second position would certainly be helpful, and that might be what Fultz is trying to establish right now on the Nook as he works his way over towards the main kitchen entrance from the red stairs.
Fultz is going to be able to go around all of the bulletproofs as well as Soul's Echo drones, so he should be able to just sneak inside a kitchen double more than likely, unless they have something there to slow him down, like a goo mine or maybe some barbed wire, but no barbed wire for the defense, so it's really just Cameraman that could possibly thwart this game plan for him. Also possibly the FaZe members re-rotating and doubling back towards Whiskey through white stairs or brown. We'll have to exactly see how that breaks down here in these dying moments, but SSG definitely has enough control to be able to try and commit to site. It's all about these angles that FaZe is holding on the mid floor that SSG has not contested. It's going to be a huge issue for them.
Oh, very, very close. Cameraman has no idea as well that Rampy's taken a position down over towards Whiskey. And as well, you're going to be able to see Fultz catch himself a kill too as he finally completes that lurk and gets himself up to the main kitchen entrance here. Frag grenade does go in. Bullet panics and chucks in his Nitro, but it's nowhere close to any intended targets here as he takes damage from another nade that's chucked in. Sky's just going to be able to sneak in a plan as well. No resistance to that whatsoever. But look at this. Cyber walking right up. No one's anyone the wiser that he walks down the Whiskey Scares and takes out 2 members of SSG. SSG certainly a great plant for themselves, but nowhere near secured as of yet, as we got FaZe coming in hot for a retake.
There's no way in hell that FaZe is able to win this. If FaZe win this, I don't even know what you say, SSG. Bullet trying to work his way back in towards Kitchen with Astro in tow. It's still doable. 17 seconds remaining. They only have 10 seconds to commit to this game plan here. They know somebody's in the corner. The pre-fire is coming through. Can Vigil win it out? He'll swing in towards the middle of Kitchen, but the ARX will get it done for Hot and Gold. Cyber will be able to at least get 1 for his troubles, but doesn't mean that much at the end of the day. SSG stay alive.
SSG indeed keep themselves alive for 1 more round as they close the gap little by little here, back to, I believe, a 3-round deficit at this point in the round. But the problem is FaZe obviously already up on map point, so it needs to be flawless from this point forward from SSG, and it unfortunately has really been anything but that up until this point. Certainly seeing some life come back into them though on this attacking side, and some great strategies to isolate out the more aggressive members of FaZe as we saw them do some very nice work to put some additional pressure over on the Whiskey side of the first floor to really hamper the defensive setup from FaZe.
Fantastic stuff from SSG and their read of what was going on inside of the Whiskey area, especially with their plant site, or their plant spot rather. There was no verticality for FaZe to really abuse inside of that space to prevent that from going on, so really liked that SSG was able to take control of coat check and go for that plant instead of going for something like inside a K2 or something like that. You don't really want to see them planting in the middle of the kitchen inside of that area just because of all of the angles that FaZe does have, and when SSG recognized that, they immediately shifted over to that space, so very well done from them, but as you were saying, we're going to have to see a lot more.
All right, so let's see if we're going to get that whatsoever here as we go back to a second floor hold now with the FaZe roster. And immediately they commit themselves to the usual extension up onto the 3rd floor. Lots of support going to be given to that white bathroom once again. As well, you can see some reinforcements going down to allow them to play a little bit into the cocktail bar here, as well as possibly into freezer if they really want to venture outwards here. It seems like most of the presence is being focused at the moment there over towards Whiskey. There was a lot of reinforcements being deployed to support that. Even mute jammers as well to prevent the walls from going down and allow these players to hold a secure point, as well as a secure rotation back downstairs should they need it through the hatch that goes down into Janitor.
SSG will be let out of the gates yet again here now. We'll see what they can possibly get done for FaZe's potential last round here on Kafe. As for SSG, really love to see more out of Bosco inside of these rounds. I'm pretty sure if Bosco starts to light up this scoreboard, we definitely could see SSG start to bring things back, as it really just seems to be him lacking on this offensive side thus far. 1-8 in the current moment, but with Lion as his current operator, we could see him to have some more influence in different ways.
Slow roll once again here from SSG as they're going to spend quite a bit of time analyzing the situation and finding a good path forward. That's been how SSG has found most of their success, is through that slow, methodical play that eventually allows them to catch a gap in the defense or two that they can eventually utilize and abuse to be able to get past the large majority of FaZe's extended setup at a minimum, which then gives them a good man advantage to push more directly into the site, or at least forces FaZe to play passively and will allow a plant to go through, as we saw in the previous round here. Continuing to see that play out as the first minute of the round is already gone. SSG continue to prioritize droning here before they feel any bit of security to try and push in and take third floor control.
Yeah, sadly, not all sites are made the same, though, and that's the big thing here looking into this one. FaZe is going to be able to bear down onto a lot of SSG's game plan if they are able to hold on to this top floor. It's really about these FaZe members staying alive in sight and trying to prevent things going on inside of that space. Over for Fire Hall area. Seeing if Cyber wants to commit to this, and he will. Foltz gets caught off guard as he's just trying to get rid of the mute jammer. That's going to be his 10th death in the game.
Cyber with a nice catch there. Timing, allowing him to move in and take out Foltz there. Some very nice stuff as Foltz once again not able to catch him when he goes for the swing around, and with that one FaZe will take the advantage this time, which is an area they've actually been lacking in this half, and they obviously dominated on it back in the first half when they were on the attack, really dominated a lot of areas. But first kill is an area where SSG has really been taking control so far in this half. Not this time though, as it's 2 for 1 on the initial trades here. Hot and Cold finally getting himself into the action, but he trades out both the deaths of his teammates here. It's lights out from Hot and Cold. He's trying to keep his team in the game despite what FaZe is throwing back at him. Cameraman uses the Nitro to take out Skies, and just like that, SSG are back down a player again.
We have to see Bosco play some very serious siege here. If we don't see Bosco get any kills this round, I mean, this is going to be the most Herculean effort from Hot and Cold. It'll be an ace for him on the round if they're able to stay alive in this one. Currently committed towards the top window here, trying to send some shots to make sure that Astro has no idea Hotten's creeping up on him. It'll work out. That's a triple kill for him thus far. But 20 seconds remain for them to get this case down and under their control, while having to worry about both FaZe members who are playing their best defense around this site.
That's your NA MVP for sure, as once again some great work coming out from Hot and Cold inside of this round. 3 kills clearing out the entire top floor setup. The Gone 6 is going to quickly open up the barricades and give these guys access to a site, but they don't feel fully confident in the walk-in here. They're going to have to obviously commit to it though, with time coming down to an 0 point. And now the retake attempts coming in, the Nitro thrown in. Can Hot and Cold grab it? No, he goes down instead. Shoots out the Nitro, Bosco does, but now he's got to fend off against both players. He'll do it, shuts them both down. Bosco with the big clutch, and that's going to keep SSG in the map.
That's exactly what you want to see coming from Boss Goat. He's been so quiet this entire game, but when his number's called up, he finally gets it done. A clutch in the moment and shoring up that round deficit just enough here. Only 2 rounds to go for SSG as they stay alive still on Kafe.
So it's going to be a bar reattempt coming in from the FaZe roster now. And we did actually see this one go by the way of SSG the last time it was played into it. Mining is where the only site so far where we've seen FaZe able to pick up a round on the defensive side. And I believe that actually is unlocked as of this round here, but they're going to choose not to go for that, favoring instead the third floor, probably for the same reasons that we saw SSG do it at the end of their initial half, just to make this round a bit more predictable and hopefully allow them to get the clean closeout they need, as the advantage that initially was heavily favored for FaZe previously, I believe 5-1 at halftime, has now gone the opposite direction, and SSG are only 2 rounds away from potentially triggering OT.
Well, SSG getting a lot farther than I think both you and I presumed when we got to this half. FaZe only able to muster 1 defensive round so far, although they are definitely making SSG work for it, I'll tell you that. We'll have to see how this one will go here as we are now on the top floor. Some interesting things coming out here from Astro. Well, rather Bullet and the rest of FaZe. So we'll be making a rotation here into Freezer. In the Christmas side of all things, this is something that we don't see too often. position. And actually, they won't have any deployable shields either to try and play in this space. This is something we saw done for a little while, but obviously some other things could be in the cards for them. This is definitely an angle that they can abuse from a lot of different areas, and SSG is more than likely not going to be used to working around that as well, as that's usually a place that you'll open as an offensive member instead of having to play through that through other means like they will have to now.
FaZe gonna hope they can get lucky on the Nitro Cell lottery here. As you can see, Cyber just ready to chuck it up at a moment's notice.
As soon as you hear that rappel go off, it's just a chuck, but I don't think that we're going to see it. I gotta agree with you on that.
Once again, he'll just back up and away from that one, with as well seeing the bucket into position. There's his chance. Gone and gone away. So SSG will not be falling victim to that Nitro Cell toss anytime soon here, at least not at the beginning of this round. More important to note, though, it's also not wasted by FaZe. This is the only Nitro they bring to the table for this round, so still going to be an opportunity to try and chuck that a little bit later when the action gets a little bit more heavy towards the site here. And we can see, once again, SSG, large part of the reason is how they were able to leverage a win on this site. The first time it was played was because they went for a top or bottom to top clear, and FaZe did not expect that to some extent here. Nades going in, and it's right on the mark. The attacker Nitro Cell comes in from the bottom as it takes out Souls and gives SSG the opening kill.
Yeah, this Nitro Cell just has a pin. That's the big difference here, and it's more fragmentation than it is utter force, like a plastic explosive, similar to the Nitro Cell. Either way, though, FaZe is going to be losing a member early here, and quite the important one as well, as Souls is one of the bread and butter characters to play defense here for FaZe inside of the site. You won't be able to use those evil eyes in such a convincing way either anymore, although, just to remind you, the evil eyes did get buffed in a certain sense. You can move them around to look around now, but Maestro's the only one that can open the gates and actually shoot lasers out of the evil eyes, so they'll be lacking in that department for the time being. But for FaZe right now, they should definitely know what's going on. This is the exact same strategy that we saw SSG apply to this the last time around, although now Bosco's finding some frags.
Bosco with a nice pick once again, weakening the overall setup for FaZe here as they now go down to 3 players left with only a minute to go as well here. That's plenty of time for SSG to be able to utilize here to clear out the remaining members of FaZe, but that obviously won't matter too much if FaZe are able to trade that out to an even number. Yet again, Cameraman getting the first pickup for FaZe inside of this round, eliminating Skies. Obviously that hard breach going to go away, but in a large part it's not really needed at this point, so Utility's not going to leave a lot out. Nice catch from Hot and Cold as he takes down Cameraman, trying to go for a window jump out, and that leaves only Cyber as well as Astro alive here for the FaZe camp to try and once again rebound, close out this map.
Hot and Cold not only has the most kills in the game, but he's also got the case. Somebody needs to kill Astro, and it'll be Hot and Cold to do it as well. Bosco's been down, but that guarantees a plant here for Hot and Cold, and more than likely an SSG round. Cyber not very much HP coming into this 1v3 clutch, and a lot on his plate to get this done.
See Cyber trying to lurk around here, trying to bait out any type of sound cue or intel that he might be able to get for himself, but like Stokes is saying, this is such a tough battle for him to win here, even to get the first kill. So counting down and heading back in. So let's get into it here and see what exactly these two teams are going to be able to bring on the final round of regulation, as it really has become a duel of 2 top players there, if you spotted it on the scoreboard. Cyber at 14-7. Meanwhile, you got Hot and Cold at 10-7 as well. Both those players competing heavily to try and push their team over the finish line.
Hotton is doing his damnedest right now. The only positive player across the entirety of SSG in the moment. And that's not something that we see too often coming out of this squad, especially for you and me and what we saw inside of Stage 3. So we'll see if SSG can possibly tie things up here. This round means quite a lot to the overall story of this best of 3. FaZe obviously committing themselves to the reading Fireplace Hall defense yet again here. There's a lot of some mute jammers to hold on to the single panels here, as well as committing some utility upstairs, not only around the freezer space, but also inside of Cocktail, just to slow down this SSG take.
So for SSG, they've come back with huge efficiency here, especially when it comes to their opening picks, and specifically for Hot and Cold as well, finding so many playmaking opportunities where he just tears through the setup from FaZe. Bringing a lot of what we saw in some respects from Astro, more than anyone inside of the first half there for the members of FaZe, as he was pulling off a lot of the same things on at least 2 or 3 rounds where he just kind of walked right in, got himself some easy doubles. Very much Hot and Cold, bringing that same type of flair to the table in the second half and making it very tough for FaZe to get any type of closeouts here so far, with only 1 to write home about. But they need to find that second here on this round. Once again, SSG taking a slow route as well, and going to try to utilize a bottom to top clear for at least Fultz as he takes up position inside of first floor VIP now to wait and see if he can catch any rotations probably for a minute or so.
Fultz, as of right now, seemingly the only SSG member inside of the building. So he's on this base floor, just seeing if any of the FaZe members want to try and commit to a rotation on that base level, something that we'd see quite often here on Kafe. So a great read from SSG to get him in early and make sure that they have this shut down if FaZe do want to commit to something like that. This is more than likely going to lead into SSG making some game plans on the other end. Fultz, that's a freebie right there. Exactly. Cameraman ends up getting taken down on white stairs. And yet again, FaZe punished by the base floor.
So FaZe will once more lose the opening kill advantage for themselves here, which has been a huge core issue inside of this second half of themselves, just completely unable to prevent the lurking from SSG or other bits of aggression which they've allowed to come in. Interesting from Skyzer, he's actually going to shoot out the X-Pyros and choose to enforce.
I'll tell you why. The reasoning is that they're more than likely going to be going for a fireplace plant, and they don't want that hatch open because if they retake up top, they're just going to kill them.
Yep.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel. You're not going to win that fight. So for SSG, it's much smarter to keep that hatch sealed and make sure that they can safely play inside of the train space instead of opening it and giving FaZe the potential to retake the top floor.
Hotton going to try and load up a nade for himself here, and it will land itself in a good position. Unfortunately for him, an ADS is still primed and ready to go halfway down the white stairs there, so that player from the other side on FaZe will be able to avoid their premature death in this round, and SSG have come to a little bit of a standstill, but that's all for good reason, as they are trying to build up the strength to go for an attacking clear here. The only issue being, once again, possible lack of intel on the actual site setup. A lot of players on FaZe sitting at the borders of this would have been able to shoot out drones fairly easily. And you can see that only half the count's been used by the SSG roster, so still plenty of opportunities to try and gather that. If one of their lurking players here, most notably, we see Fultz unable to leverage anything else for himself. The rest of the team is nearly prepared to make that transition themselves.
This is so very awkward for both of these teams right now. FaZe doesn't know what the move is from SSG officially, but it seems as though they think that they have an idea that it's going to be coming in from the white side, and they'll be right as they're taking down member after member. It's a 2 versus 2, and that's the case. SSG, they're not able to get it done. Rampy with a frag, but FaZe play it out perfectly as they'll shut down the take from the white side. They have to commit from the balcony upstairs, and it's simply not enough time for Rampy to get his last kill. FaZe with a 7-5 victory on Kafe.
A little bumpy on the defensive side, but they managed to get the job done, and unfortunately